This presentation describes a detailed investigation and analysis that shows how historic scale houses can be economically built on Union Pier, and also how the South Carolina Port Authority can receive market value for the residential land on the site. Charleston requires new construction to reflect the historic features, size, scale, proportions and massing of its setting. That requirement will be applied to Union Pier. The study concludes that 2- and 3-story Charleston-style houses are economically viable on land that sells for $10 to $20 million per acre. And 18 acres of residential land on Union Pier with about 600 dwelling units would provide the Port Authority with about $400 million worth of land sales. And these small-scale houses and buildings can make the new neighborhood much like historic Charleston. And compared to the 1,600 dwelling units in the withdrawn PUD, the traffic and parking issues would be substantially reduced. These conclusions are based on an economic study of 30 houses in Ansonborough to find out the relationship between the value of the lot and the size and features of the houses. That, together with a survey of 500 houses and buildings in historic neighborhoods close to Union Pier, to document the key characteristics in terms of the height, scale, and other visible features of the houses and buildings. The economic study and the survey are combined to develop alternative residential options for Union Pier. We will first look at the economic study and then the survey. For an economic perspective and as a benchmark, these are recent prices paid for land on the peninsula in premium locations. The Cooper Hotel site on the waterfront was purchased for $21 million per acre. The Four Seasons Hotel site on Meeting Street between Market and Broad Streets, $21 million per acre. The site of a new hotel 1 block off of the Market, a recent transaction, $22 million per acre. Now we will look at house prices and derived land values for 30 houses in Ansonborough. The Ansonborough Economic Study area is close by and to the west of Union Pier. The value of the lot or the land under a house is the difference between the market price of the house and the cost of builder charges for constructing it. We can get an estimate of the current market price of each house in our study from Zillow.com and Realtor.com. We estimate the construction cost of a house on the peninsula using local advice and other research. We use an average of $425 per square foot for every house in our base case. We evaluate changes to this very important assumption later. We estimate the land value for every house and then divide the results from the 30 houses into 3 groups based on the land values. Those with a land value less than $10 million per acre, those between $10 and $20 million per acre, and those with a land value greater than $20 million per acre. Each column in this table is a group. The left-hand column is the less than $10 million per acre group. The average land value is $8 million per acre, and there are 9 houses in this group. The center column is the $10 to $20 million group. The average land value is $12.7 million per acre, and there are 14 houses in this group. The right-hand column is houses with a land value over 20 million per acre. The average land value is 24.7 million per acre, which exceeds that of the land values on the hotel sites. There are 7 houses in this group. Houses with the highest land values are the smallest. The highest land value houses sell at the highest prices per square foot. And these small houses are built on small lots, resulting in a high number of dwelling units per acre, 1 dwelling unit per house. It's absolutely clear that a residential development created from small houses on small lots, like those shown in the center and far right columns, can provide land values equal to the prices being paid for hotel land in prime locations on the peninsula. What is driving land values? House prices on the peninsula have increased faster than building costs, and buyers pay a premium in dollars per square foot for small houses on small lots. In the last 4 years, the median price of houses sold in the historic district has increased from about $1 million to $1.5 million, and have almost certainly increased faster than building costs. This slide is from the Casino group of realtors. Now let us apply our findings to Union Pier by way of an example. We'll use the Port Authority master plan from the PUD. The white blocks are for the construction of buildings and houses. They add to about 22 acres. Roads, parks and waterfront amenities occupy the rest of the 70 acres. This example puts 436 houses on 18 of those 22 available acres. Our example has 54% of the houses being Charleston single houses. There are 632 dwelling units. Some of the houses are divided into apartments, giving us 35 dwelling units per acre and a land value of $400 million and house and apartment sales of $853 million. Our example has a mixture of houses that roughly match the results of the survey. There are many alternatives. Charleston single houses are shown in red on the pie chart on the slices to the right, and other Charleston style houses in green on the left. The houses that are divided into apartments are the shaded pie slices. Dividing houses into apartments makes ownership affordable for more people. Here is the detail showing house heights and land coverage. Note that all the 3-story houses on the left, regardless of whether they're divided into apartments or not, have a land value of $29 million per acre. These are built at a 60% land coverage, which is as high as one might want to go in a residential neighborhood. One can add additional open spaces and pathways between the houses, reducing the overall land coverage. That, of course, is also reducing the $400 million land value. This slide shows the impact on land value of building taller houses, more floors, and covering more of the lot for each house with the house. That's a higher percent land coverage. The third column shows the land value for 18 acres if all the houses are of the size and coverage shown in the two left-hand columns. The smiley face is where our $400 million example lies. The average house in our $400 million land value is 2.6 stories high. This slide shows the impact of changing the assumed house price, $800 per square foot, or the building cost, where we assumed $425 per square foot. It's the difference between those numbers that drives the land value. For example, if the selling price of the house was $900 per square foot, not $800, the change would be $100 per square foot, taking the land value from 400 million to 507 million. I'm going to skim through these next three slides. Here are 7 homes on Goldsmith Row in Ansonborough, 2-story houses with land behind, $14 million per acre. These houses have side alleys which are not wide enough for a car. Minotti Street in Ansonborough, $17 million per acre of land value. A great small neighbourhood of Charleston style houses, and each house has a driveway but not much land behind. The Gadsden condominiums alongside Union Pier, tall buildings, land value 18 million per acre. That's a very rough estimate. Now the survey. Remember, of course, that we want Union Pier to reflect the size, scale and mass of the nearby historic areas, the houses in our survey. The results of the survey are a guide for the urban planners, of course they'll do their own survey, and for the city that must define the zoning and control the development. This chart shows the distribution of house heights averaged across the 3 residential surveys in Ansonborough, the French Quarter and south of Broad. House height was just one of the parameters we measured. The residential areas consist almost entirely of 2- and 3-story houses. About a third of the houses have under-roof living space. One sees an under-roof window in the front and or dormer windows in the roof. This space is denoted as a half story. In this pie chart, the land values from the economic study are applied to the survey results from this previous slide. The result is $21 million an acre, the same as our example, which is not surprising since the example was based on the survey. Now let's look quickly at the house types, heights and widths in each of the 3 survey areas. This is Ansonborough. Beneath each illustration is the percentage of the surveyed houses of that type. The two-story houses on the left, the single house and then the standard house, amount to half the neighbourhood. The French Quarter, there are very few Charleston single houses. South of Broad. In the 3 residential areas we've just looked at, there are no houses over 3.5 stories high. Union Pier should be the same. Now we'll look at two tourist streets, I call them, closest to Union Pier. East Bay from the market to Rainbow Row, and the east of Broad Street, just the south side, from East Bay to Meeting Street. Here we have restaurants, coffee shops, two hotels, galleries and buildings with apartments on the upper floors. However, less than 10% of the buildings are 4-story high, mostly hotels with a 5th story not visible from the street. The buildings are close together along the main street of varying heights and with gaps for the side streets and the alleys. Concord Street, which will run across Union Pier, could have these characteristics.